misrepresentation. My character, even my name, was assailed. Only this time it wasn't the Soviet state doing so, but the US Justice Department, the FBI, and the Robert Mueller probe. As anyone who has not been living on the moon knows, Attorney General Jeff Sessions appointed Robert Mueller as a special prosecutor to lead the Russia probe, to determine if the sitting US president had colluded with the Kremlin and President Putin himself to win the presidency and/or continue to do so once in office. As a witness called before the grand jury in the Mueller investigation, and later before the House Intelligence Committee and the Senate, thousands upon thousands of my texts, emails, and phone calls, as well as thousands of business and private documents, were subject to Department of Justice and congressional review. It was a nightmare. To defend myself, I felt it necessary to hire high-priced white-collar criminal defense lawyers, spending an enormous amount of money on legal fees. At the same time, as a businessman, I became radioactive. Even my friends and closest associates kept their distance, not wanting to be tainted by the Mueller probe. My business dried up. And for what? To what end? Even now, I am still trying to make sense of it. When I left the USSR and came to the Land of the Free in New York City on March 20th, 1991, never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined that 28 years later, my name would appear in one of the most consequential documents in the history of the United States, the Mueller Report. Robert Mueller, whom I held in the greatest respect, nevertheless devoted an entire footnote, number 112, to me and my connection to the controversial Steele dossier and its claim of Russian Kompromat, salacious videotapes of Donald Trump in Moscow. There was no real connection between me and the Steele dossier, but the footnote made it seem as if there was. The Mueller report accused me, an American citizen, of being a Russian businessman who was working with the president's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, to destroy the release of compromising video, or Kompromat as it's called in Russia, about the then-candidate Donald J. Trump. The Mueller report's false, inaccurate, and highly selective version of events had the effect of being nothing more or less than character assassination. Thanks to my unnecessary and inaccurate appearance in the Mueller report, media outlets believed I was a primary link in the story of a potential Russian compromat on the sitting president of the United States. Print and TV media picked up the story, amplified it, and spread the false characterizations of me, my nationality, and my actions. Online trolls cast me as an agent of the Kremlin and called for my imprisonment. People obsessed with removing Trump from the White House didn't care if I was guilty or not. It was accepted gospel that anyone in Trump or Michael Cohen's orbit was guilty, and any foreign deal, even one which was never fully consummated, was proof of corruption and a vehicle for Russian influence or blackmail. You might think that an average American citizen is not going to have his life overwhelmed by the government for some business deals that were never completed. I certainly thought so. I thought, this can't happen in the USA, not in 2019. However, in the blink of an eye, my family and I went from living the American dream to having to fight our way out of a nightmare. Rachel Maddow, the highly sarcastic TV talk news personality from MSNBC, spent 20 minutes ranting about me. Maddow went so far as to call me Trump's Soviet buddy, letting her listeners believe that somehow I was the one who had access to the compromat against Trump, and that I had made sure that the salacious and compromising tapes stayed in Russia and never made it to the United States. As if that were not enough, Maddow mocked my last name and my heritage, and made me out to be a traitor. While writing this book, I realized that Kompromat, the word that had haunted my family and my existence in the former Soviet Union,